I am Marjorie Molina. I am a North Carolina native, and I currently represent District 5 on Charlotte City Council. I've lived in Charlotte. This will be my 21st year. I moved here in 2004 for a job, and I started my family. I've raised my family here, and East Charlotte is home. I'm not new to service to the community. I've been serving, not only the East Charlotte community, but I've served on several boards for the city. I was on the Economic Development Committee. I was appointed to a county commission committee. I've been through Leadership Charlotte. I've even been through the FBI Citizens Academy. I did that in 2015. Oh my goodness. I was on the YMCA of Greater Charlotte's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion and Global Issues Committee. And that dates back, oh my God, in 2012. And that was all 19 Ys and 2 camps. So that was the association board. And I serve with so many executives and leaders. I mean, I've just not been a stranger to serving our community. And so, having lived in East Charlotte for so many years, once the seat was opened, I had, fellow leaders come to me and say, "Hey, Marjorie, like, why don't you do it?" And I was like, "Well, let me pray about it." That was a big deal because I was, in transition and, done some soul searching, and here I am. Over the last 2 terms, I have been, a witness to some of the most foundational decisions in East Charlotte. The most substantial decision, of course, is that of Eastland Yards. One of our most popular, economic development opportunities in this area, in this region, really. 90 acres of real estate set vacant for the better part of the last 13 years. And there wasn't a definitive answer for the first 60 acres and then the last 90 acres. When I was elected in 2022, the decision for the first 60 acres was being finalized. And so I was at the groundbreaking for the first 60 acres, which is a complete mixed use development, retail, for sale properties. There is affordable arrangements for our 55 and older residents, as well as, residents that are younger. A grocery store, a 5-acre park. I mean, 30 acres of, economic development. And of course, the last 30 acres were the most substantial decision that happened since I've been elected. We finalized what will be the last 30 acres of the Eastland Yards property, which will be an indoor sports facility. It will be soccer. There will be, different uses for that soccer field and so much more that's going to go there. But most importantly, it was the result of 2 potential, opportunities that were separate in the beginning. It was very, 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 electric. I guess I could say it was an electric time on City Council. Um, and I am so very proud and so very honored to say that, through earning the unanimous support of my colleagues, we delivered a unanimous result, which was 2 competing proposals working together. So, revitalization without displacement is a big deal, right? Oftentimes, when you see an area revitalized, it becomes attractive to others. That's what we tend to preface as what becomes the word gentrification, right? So, to create space for the residents that are existing, like that of Pepper Tree Apartments, for an example, that was an opportunity, what we call a NOAA, a naturally occurring affordable housing property, where through the purchase of that property, we were able to revitalize and stabilize over 170 families. Through a partnership with Atrium Health, they now have an on-site healthcare facility where they can, experience a virtual doctor's visit without having to even leave the comfort of their neighborhoods. They can rent a car that's there in the neighborhood for the residents that don't cost more than $50 a day. Imagine having the opportunity to rent a vehicle for $50 and be able to use it, bring it back and park it. So that is completely wrapping around that, resident, keeping them in place, stabilized in place and in East Charlotte without them being displaced. That is one of the greatest examples, and that is both public and private partnership. That was a private partnership, along with $8 million of housing trust fund monies that were granted by the taxpayers of Charlotte, and $4 million, a unique opportunity. Actually, Mecklenburg County partnered with us and provided $4 million. Another testament to intergovernmental cooperation as well as public and private partnership. Recently, on Sharon Amity, which that is it was an opportunity to place a 5-story affordable housing unit in that area with over 120 potential residents, all age protected, but incredibly dense, where it would actually change the character of the neighborhood. And the Coventry Woods and surrounding neighborhoods, they were completely adamant about why that was not a good fit. And it was unanimous support against it. So I, held some community meetings. I went to my colleagues and gave them a complete update on what my why was based on what the voices of the residents were explaining. And they joined me in unanimously declining that opportunity. So that opportunity will not come to East Charlotte. And that is a testament to maintaining the character of certain neighborhoods. We're unique here in East Charlotte in that a lot of our residents, neighborhoods, a lot of our neighborhoods have, you know, older, you know, properties that were constructed all the way back to the 50s. And they have large yards, there's just large lots. And so a lot of the humans that moved to East Charlotte moved because they wanted to raise a family. They weren't quite looking for, the density that we can find in, let's say, South End, which is great. I love South End. But protecting that character where we're able to is extremely important. And I want to make sure that I'm clear. This isn't that I'm saying that I don't believe in protecting our, residents that are 55 and older. It's just putting them in a place that's conducive for their mobility. So, we don't have transit in that area yet. That would allow them the mobility that they would need to get to and from. We don't have the amenities that would, be conducive for having our 55 and older residents reside there. So it was a unanimous no. And so we will look for something else for those two homes that maintains the character. That's just another great example of, partnering with the community and doing what's best for the community and maintaining both the character of East Charlotte as well as protecting the residents that are currently in place. Economic empowerment looks like workforce development. I think the beginning of a human's ability to be in charge of their own, their own lives begins with workforce development. Do they start a small business that they will eventually employ others? Do they find a job that pays them well, right? Do they find the training, where they can make the transition from where they are to where they intend to go? I think it is my personal opinion and my own experience that being empowered with the opportunity to earn more is the beginning of what can become the success of what an East Charlotte resident can experience. And that is Spark Centro. That is, our hub for the corridor of opportunity that will be Albemarle Road and Central Avenue. And actually, ironically, it's on W.T. Harris, adjacent to what will be, our official corridor. 15 acres of space that will be an incubation for small businesses, workforce training opportunities, bilingual services, um, and international representation right here in the heart of East Charlotte along our corridor. Let's talk about the 1 cent sales tax. That's the elephant in the room, right? Everyone wants to know what it means and what's in it for them. And my challenge as the representative for East Charlotte, specifically in District 5, has been considering all of our residents. I do realize that, a lot of the conversation has been around the Silver Line, which is very important. Um, but what does the 1 cent sales tax mean, and why would it be important to the residents of East Charlotte? So let me start from what is the beginning of understanding where we are in this process. Um, there was draft legislation passed by 6 of the 7 towns that are Mecklenburg County. Actually, it was just to signal to the General Assembly that we were in a consensus. It was one of the things that the Assembly actually asked as a preface to um, considering allowing the voters to decide whether there would indeed be a 1 cent referendum, a 1 cent sales tax referendum. Um, and there was largely consensus. The only town that was not in favor of that was the town of Matthews, and understandably so. Matthews is around 30,000 residents, very important. I'm in Matthews often. Having lived in East Charlotte for so long, I frequent Matthews. It's a great town. We're adjacent to both Matthews and Mint Hill in East Charlotte. You go down Lawyers Road and you're in Mint Hill. It's literally they're a part of the East. They're just as much East as we are. So I understand what their reservation was. But again, the challenge is the cost of the Silver Line. That's not something that anyone in East Charlotte would argue not in favor of. I can't imagine owning real estate. I'm a homeowner. I've been a homeowner almost my entire time. Literally, I have owned a home. I have purchased and become a real estate investor by way of buying my first property ever in life right here in Charlotte. And here in East Charlotte. So I'm not just, a resident. I'm invested. I'm personally invested, having started my family here, raised, my children. And so I said all that to say that if there was a way to pay for the Silver Line in all lines, I think even the people who don't live here would argue that it would be the best thing. But there were constraints that were imposed upon the county by the General Assembly. They wanted what was a roads first plan. And that's what the draft legislation was about. It was about signaling to them that we could, in fact, be in support of what they were asking in order to have the ability to ask the voters to make the final decision. Um, and what that means potentially, if it is in fact approved by the voters, is a better bus system with more frequency, and not just the number 9. The number 9 is already very, very frequent. It's actually the most frequent bus in our system. It runs currently every 15 minutes. And it goes from East Charlotte to Uptown. But imagine that frequency across Charlotte, across several routes where people actually use transit. The largest part of transit right now takes place in our bus system. So Better Bus is one of the primary ways of moving, our residents across our city. Of course, that also involves other ways. So imagine for one moment that Charlotte is over 350 square miles of space. Just to give you um, a an idea of what that means, Manhattan, the borough of Manhattan, that's a part of New York City, is under 25 square miles. 1.3 million people live there. So if you have a transit line that's over 100 years old that has already been in existence and you're only dealing with 25 square miles, then talking about frequency is a little bit different. Let's take another measure. And this is Googleable. All five boroughs, New York City, where the largest city in our union that houses about 8.3 million people and counting, is a little over 400 square miles. We're 350 square miles, and we continue to annex space into Charlotte. We just don't have the incredible amount of density to account for. So, what our planners have been doing over the last 5 years is putting our 350 square miles into area plans and making them adjacent with plans to move people. And so for East Charlotte, what that means is strategic investment areas like the Far East. There, even if there was a such thing as a silver line, which has been a great challenge for me, how would I move somebody from Harrisburg Road? How would I move somebody from Robinson Church Road? How can I serve someone who lives on Plaza Road Extension? They would have no way of even imagining what that meant unless they could either catch a bus from where they are to where a transit service would reside. Imagine serving someone where Albemarle Road meets 485 and Matthews. How would they be served by a potential transit line, gold or silver? And so that's a constant challenge that I have to hold with over 125,000 residents to make decisions for. And when we raise our hand on absolutely everything that happens in the city of Charlotte. I just have the unique honor of representing specifically the residents of District 5. And so, with that challenge is the huge undertaking of representing every last one of them with the best resources that we can possibly offer based on what's available to us. And so, the strategic investment areas will allow, for an example, the residents that live along Harrisburg Road to pay what it would cost to ride a bus to have door to door service. They could call for what is essentially the equivalence of an Uber by way of cats and go all the way to the grocery store for what it would cost to ride the bus, which is serving people right where they are. And that's what the 1 cent sales tax would allow, in addition to more frequency of service. Or imagine that the residents along that corridor right now don't have essential services like lighting, sidewalks where they could walk, where they could access our greenways that, are right now planned throughout our entire city, where if people wanted to walk or bike, those networks actually are adjacent to road networks. And there's an interconnectedness that we don't often talk about, but they're inextricable. So, all humans don't choose to ride a car. Some humans ride bikes. Someone who I adored in East Charlotte, John Holmes, who is no longer with us, taught me more about riding bikes than I ever knew was possible. And some humans choose to ride bikes. You know, some humans love to live in walkable areas, and they'll be able to do that as we can build out sidewalk networks that, you know, connect to our greenway services that have better lighting and more bus stops where they can actually access those, and get home, more frequently and not have to go all the way uptown and then wait. And, so it's about connecting our system to, you know, more frequency, more accessibility, and of course, allowing service to all of our residents, not only in in East Charlotte, but throughout our entire county. This is a county-wide sales tax. So let me make sure that I'm clear. There are multiple types of taxes. Sales tax is tax on a sale. That is the people who live in Charlotte and the people who visit us. So the people who come to our city to visit for a Panthers game, they're going to help finance that 1 cent. The people who come for a Hornets game, they will help finance that 1 cent. The people who come for a Checkers game, they will help finance that 1 cent. A Charlotte FC game, a World Cup game, an all-star game. I mean, all of those humans that visit and enjoy our wonderful, growing, dynamic city will help to finance what we anticipate over 30 years, a $19 billion revenue, so that we can build these things that we envision to better, our growing county and community. So I believe that life is a journey for us all. And I don't believe that there's a such thing as that journey being completed. I guess I'll start there. I am an avid reader. I always feel like I'm learning, and both personally and professionally. So I need to make sure that I'm clear there. But my educational journey is such that, I mean, a lot of people have seen my face on Central Piedmont's cover. In 2019, I had the wonderful honor of actually telling a story. A lot of people saw the face and they were like, wow, you were featured on Central Piedmont. And what they didn't realize was that it was one of the largest transition periods of my life. I had come out of, actually, I was going through a separation when I took the pictures. I wasn't even divorced yet. Imagine that. Um, and I had become a single mother, still with the help of my ex-husband, of course. I mean, parenthood was something that we did on purpose. So we still are very much a tag team when it comes to, raising our children. We both love our children, so I want to make sure that I'm clear there. But where I had someone in my home who was there with me doing car rider lines and tag teaming while I did work, I lost that privilege when we decided to live separately. And I went back to school, and I took a trade through NC Works. At the time, I wasn't even working. Imagine, I went to NC Works, North Carolina Department of Commerce, and they paid for me to do a data analytics program. It was a year program, and I did it with the intention of earning more money so that I could sustain myself in what was a terrible transition period for me. Um, and the global pandemic happened. So I finished the program in 2020. My divorce was finalized, and then the world shut down. So there I was with, now I'm teaching two kids at home, one in elementary school, one in middle school, entering middle school. Um, and I couldn't even begin the training, the work and the training. So I decided to go back and get my master's degree. I was like, well, I got to do something. I started working for Dream Key Partners virtually, helping people get, assistance, actually only Spanish-speaking residents. So I did all of the literature and material for Dream Key Partners. During, the pandemic, I worked for them, and we dispersed all kinds of assistance, for rent and utilities and mortgages, through pandemic relief funds. And like I said, myself and one other person handled the entire county. And I went back to grad school. So I went back to UNC Charlotte to get my master's degree. And the world started to open back up while I was in that transition, mildly. And also the seat for District 5 opened up. And I started to have people ask me, Marjorie, will you serve in District 5? And that was when, again, my life is in transition. I'm rebuilding concurrently through education, and figuring it all out. Like many of the residents here, a lot of people see you in these seats, and I don't think they realize that you're a human with your own set of experiences and obstacles and challenges that you must overcome. And I decided to step up in the middle of it all, um, and kind of live out loud in a way that, you know, in my heart, I felt like I wasn't ready. I felt all the things that people feel when you're making such a big decision. Um, Imagine the program that I was in was so highly just, and it was an intensive program. I was reintroduced to math that I hadn't seen in years. It was a challenge. Being, tutored and, staying up late and getting up early. Meanwhile, still, working and raising children and doing all the things. And then adding running for office. So I added running for office to all of that. And man, was it a challenge. I think I took naps. I took power naps. I took power naps for months. Um, and it was, oh my God, have you ever just looked at something? You look back on something and almost not even be able to believe that you made it because it was so hard. Um, but I did it. I remember when it was almost time to graduate and it was primary election season and I was actually completing my finals. Oh God. And I remember like almost crying myself to sleep. So many different nights because it was just heavy. It was so heavy. And my race had more people in it than anyone in the city. There was 5 people in my race. So I had 5 people in the race, including myself. And I'm finishing my master's degree and I'm doing finals and I am in debates with people who probably were preparing for them and I was preparing for them and finals. And I remember walking across the stage and showing Chancellor Gaber my sign. I took my sign with me on purpose, Marjorie Molina for District 5. And I held it up and I got the video. It's public. I got the video of me walking across the stage and I held it up and let her know that I was running. And she smiled and she's like, oh yeah, I've seen her so many times since then. I reminded her of that moment of walking across that stage and getting my master's degree conferred. And 4 days later, I won the primary election, which was East Charlotte's general election. Just 4 days later. So, education it's the last 5 to 6 years have been inextricably tied to both my growth, and education has been an inextricable part of it all, from Central Piedmont to even my undergraduate alma mater, Arizona State, and, the Belk College of Business at UNC Charlotte. So, what I hope people can gain from this interview is that I'm a human that lives here in East Charlotte, and that I'm a mom with 2 children who I adore, I'm a student. I am, you know, a single mother. I am, I've been all the things. I've been a renter. I'm a homeowner. I am, a woman. I've been married. I've been divorced. You know, I've lost my father. All the things. I've taken care of a mother with cancer. I've done all the things that people go through every day. I live them. It's not that I'm some abstract person that don't drive down Albemarle Road. I live so close to Albemarle Road that I drive down it every single day. I see what people see. I'm always driving through our neighborhoods. I'm, you know, somewhere on someone's route, going to someone's community meeting or someone's event in our city, and I see our city. But I also hope that they see the great things that we've been able to accomplish over these last 2 terms. The Katie Blessing Center, that's the first of its kind, and in the state of North Carolina, where our children can actually now get the resources that they need right here in East Charlotte, where we have now completely, and potentially resolved the entire Eastland Yards, you know, question mark. And the last 30 acres are now currently resolved with 2 competing proposals that are working together for the greater good of East Charlotte and our city and our region. I hope that people can see, that with more than $40 million of implementation, the largest road project in the city currently, with the widening of Robinson Church Road, that, East Charlotte has, you know, so much that it's happening. We have Spark Centro, that's going to be an incubation hub for small businesses and you know the people who live in our district and beyond to obtain workforce development training and opportunities right here in East Charlotte. I hope that people see with the lighting that pops up over the next year or so all along the corridor of opportunity, Albemarle Road and Central Avenue, and the investment in small businesses right here along the corridor, that we have made great strides. The Umbrella Center, that's going to be a one-stop shop for women and the victims of domestic violence, where they won't have to leave. All the services will be right here along the Albemarle Road corridor. I hope that people can see these things, and I hope that they understand that we've done a lot of great things over the last 2 terms that I hope that we're all proud of. I'm so very proud to have been your representative over the last 2 terms, and it is because of that I'm asking for your support in the primary election on September 9th in 2025 to complete a 3rd term, so that we can continue with the great work that we've already started here. The Pepper Tree Apartments, you know, we've protected 170 families, and they don't even have to leave their community. They have, they have the ability to go to an Atrium Health Center that is literally the center of their community, and have virtual visits right there on site. And there's so much more to come. And it is through, the ability to represent you, and through your continued support, that we can celebrate these wins and so many more.
Thank you for watching this video. I hope you liked the content. Listen, if you like what you saw, please like and subscribe to these videos so I can continue creating content. We're in the thick of campaign season, the primary elections in Charlotte, North Carolina for municipal government leadership. And I am running for a 3rd term on Charlotte City Council, and I need your support. Primary elections are on September 9th, 2025, and I am asking you to go out, not only go out and participate, but I am asking for your support by way of a vote, so that I can continue with the work that we've started on Charlotte City Council and in District 5.